What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with my man Eric Sheets Haber. Eric's a little bit under the weather, and all of my lineups seem to be under the weather last night. So we have that in common. Eric, how you doing today? And any sort of initial thoughts on the slate, or how was your night? How you know what's going on with you?
The DFS was no good, and I will say that although I'm feeling under the weather, unlike Louis Oosthuizen, I do not withdraw so easily.
That's a good one. I like that. I like when you said that before. I just
knew it. I just knew it. I just knew it was coming. You know, you're -1. You got to make up like 4 or 5 strokes to make the cut. You don't want to have the embarrassment of missing the cut. And Louis is just and you know what? No one listen. We talked about this for over a year. You're not allowed to complain if you play Louis and this happens, because this is part of the risk. Yep.
It's what he does all the time. If he did it, the only thing that gave me some hope that he wasn't going to withdraw was that he was playing on the easier course today. So I thought he would give himself a chance. And by the way, everyone else seems to be kind of horrible today. So
yeah, the conditions are kind of tough today, actually.
Yeah, I mean, everybody. I looked at my guys and like, wow, this guy hasn't done anything, but he's moved up 70 places.
Right.
Anyway, one of those. But yeah, that was too bad about the Oosthuizen withdrawal. We're glad you didn't withdraw. We can share your screen and jump into this first game if you want to. I think this is going to be a similar thing. I did want to address actually real quick a couple of things that mistakes or misunderstanding. So there was a thing from the alerts that said Gobert was to be limited. I thought it was the RG alerts. It was the DK alerts. I think they messed up Gobert and Gay. Now, it doesn't matter because Gobert actually did play his second season low in minutes in 29. And you could say it was the blowout, but they've been in blowouts with 35 and 40 points. And he still played over 30 minutes. He only played 29 minutes last night. And Rudy Gay, who was supposed to play 15 minutes, maybe that message was supposed to be he's going to be limited, which is the logical one. He, of course, goes completely nuts and nuclear. And if we played him, we would have won all the money. So it actually really could have benefited us, our misinformation. But obviously, you know, we are just doing the best we can with the late news, 5 minutes, 3 minutes before lock, 30 minutes before lock, 40 minutes. We're trying to scram it all together and get it there. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was the Harrell thing. Now, I in the interest of full disclosure, I think I played 25-30% of Harrell, but it was being, you know, he was 70% owned and it was being looked at as absolute lock. I really liked him, but I mean, I really liked the minute that he was going to get minutes, but you know, the worst matchup in basketball, and we did sort of focus on it. So even got those things right. I still couldn't find my way to anything decent because all my other guys were killing it. The one guy I was most worried about, I had Steph Curry at 1% in the 555, and Steph has 18 fantasy points going into the fourth quarter. It ends with 61, which is a typical Steph thing to do. They come back from big time down, and I thought I was actually going to cash. I ended up literally on the bubble with 2 lineups in the 555, or sorry, 1 lineup in the 555 and 2 in the 333 on FanDuel that all just within a few points of making the money. So it was disappointing. But we'll you know, we're trying to get our process as best we can. And those late minutes scrounging is where a lot of stuff happens. And I think we got some things right and some things wrong yesterday, is what I would say.
The one decision that I could have made that would have done much better was just basically to unregister for everything. That's honestly the only decision I can kind of look back to is something I could have done.
Yep.
Okay, but the great thing about it being daily fantasy sports is that it's a new day.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say something that I am going to do today. As we start with this Indiana Charlotte game. I have not looked yet, and listen, I have to shout it out. Okay. So about 2 weeks ago or whatever it is, I was listening to one of the Awesemo shows, and they do a little thing on props or whatever it is. And they were going on and on about how this one particular situation, like Sabonis was like a minus. He was under 4.5 assists. And basically the idea was that they're not even pricing to the fact that it's a totally new role and totally new situation. So I did it that day. And literally every time I remember, I'll just bet him under assists. And it's down to like 4 now every day, but it's like not even close. I mean, like last time he had 1, you know what I mean? Like it's just ridiculous. So if he's still at 4, I'm just going to keep doing it.
He's at 4.5 today, so jump on it right now, guys.
I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
I think it's a really good call. I do think, and it's odd because this is actually probably the best, well, a better chance because Duarte's out. But the truth is, we've had either Brogdon and LeVert out. He's still not getting there. So
I don't know.
I think overall, it's the right thing. It is a great matchup for him, but we'll get into that right now, I guess. I do have one overall. So like, there's a lot of questionables on the slate. On the back-to-back, I think Jokic is a legit questionable. I think Curry is a legit questionable.
I
I
think
think
Curry's like almost doubtful.
Yeah, I think that LeBron plays, would be my guess. I also think it's really odd that Phoenix and Dallas don't have a line, and they don't even have Luka in the charts. But I haven't seen very many times they won't put up at least an initial line this season. They won't do it in the Laker game either because that's LeBron. But that makes me sort of think Luka might be maybe there's a chance of Luka playing. If Luka does play, it's not that he's like gonna necessarily just hit smash, but you're gonna get him at 0% owned, being the last game if we don't know before lock that he's playing for sure. So just that's something to keep in mind that that's the last game of the day. That's my overall thing. Now we can jump into the first game. And
The first game, my first comment is as usual. You know, I don't really come up with much on Charlotte when they're all playing. I mean, just the team seems to have a lot of balance. You know, you want to take a shot with Plumlee or I don't know, Cody Martin. I mean, but these guys, this is just all super fringy. I mean, I don't really like too much of that side. On the Indiana side, it's interesting. You did mention that it's probably a good matchup for them, and I do have Sabonis and Brogdon showing up as decent players today, and I haven't really played them in a while. And so I recommend one or two of those two guys.
Yeah, my initial thought is I do like Sabonis in the matchup. Just the rebound should be there. The thing that's frustrating is with all these things, and if Duarte's out, I think I'll give him a little boost, even though he didn't do much in the last game shooting wise. He's just not being as aggressive offensively. And I think realistically that these guys know at this point that I think these guys are going to be traded. I think they're going to mix up. Finally, this is the year they're probably going to mix up the Sabonis Turner combination, and I think that they have interest in both of them from a few teams that I've heard rumors about. And I think that does take away a little bit of your drive to like really go nuts. I did like that Sabonis got to the line 10 times, but it does 8,900 is used to be just like automatic. We're playing Sabonis. There's nothing matters, especially against Charlotte, who can't guard the position and yada yada yada. But like, it's not the same guy with all these bodies there. We know how high usage we talk about Levert is. Malcolm Brogdon is aggressive as well. So I do like both those guys, but I don't think it's any sort of a guy we necessarily need to play. If I had to pick one, it would probably be Sabonis slightly, but it's really slight. And on the Charlotte side, it's really hard to get to anything, but no one is going to play LaMelo Ball. It's just worth noting. He took 18 shots. He was 4 for 18 in his last game, and he put up 43 and 4 for 18. He can certainly get to 60 plus. But I don't have a particular ton of interest. If it would be anyone other than LaMelo, it probably would be Bridges, who I think is finally back into a reasonable price range. So Bridges and Sabonis are probably the guys who are most feasible. No one plays Gordon Hayward, and it feels like a good enough matchup for him to have a good shot at 40. So maybe Gordon Hayward would be in the mix, but I think we're going to have better spots later on. Go ahead, Sheets.
Prize Picks is getting sharp. They kept the Sabonis one at 4.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I'm looking at the other projection, but I mean the others, this depends on the site, I guess. I'm sure there's some prop sites out there.
Okay, so you want to move on to Golden State Detroit?
Yeah, this is going to be a tough one for us to analyze, right? Like without knowing about Curry.
No, the good news is that it's the early game.
Yeah.
So we will know. And just based on on what it says here, may not play. It would sure look fine. I don't know. It looks like a lot of speculation. Mm-hmm. It would be a nice game for him to sit. But we just have to keep an eye on it. I mean, if he doesn't play, then was it Jordan Poole's and the Damian Lee's and all that, and Draymond and whoever else. I mean, he has 80% usage on the team. You know what I mean? Like everybody else, Wiggins. I mean, everybody. The other thing is that with Curry out, if Curry's out, then the spread becomes somewhat palatable, which reduces blowout risk a little bit, which makes the Detroit guys, I think, a little bit easier to play. So like Cunningham and Jeremy Grant, who would be my guys I'd want to play anyway. It would with Curry out, it would reduce some of the blowout risk. That would make me worried a little bit. Although with Cunningham, wouldn't be worried so much about that.
Same here, yeah.
So I do like both those guys, Cade and Cunningham and Grant from Detroit, regardless of whether Curry's in or not. But I prefer Curry to be out for those guys.
Yeah, I think that's logical. I actually think Sadiq Bey and Cunning and Grant are interesting secondary pieces there. Like, but I don't really think I'm going to probably do either of them. The guys who are sort of the weird ones that I can't seem to, that are tough to figure out, but we've seen some ceiling just in terms of the how active he can be at times. And it seems like it'd be counteractive. It seems like they would hurt each other with Killian Hayes and Cunningham, and to some extent, I think they would usage wise. But I think Killian Hayes is mildly interesting as an unowned 4,300. And Isaiah Stewart, if the problem is, will he get run off the court or will he dominate inside? He's actually been really good lately. So I don't know. I'm sort of flirting what to do with Detroit. It's going to depend on what happens with Curry, but I do like Cunningham, and I think Stewart would be my second favorite. But again, this is all going to come down to what happens with Steph and even Draymond on a back-to-back. And there's certainly things to keep an eye out for. And if Steph is out, it's not like, I think Damian Lee will become a really good play, but I'm not even sure who else becomes like a lock like type of play, that everybody likes to say. I think Jordan Poole will be a very good play. But I don't think Green and Wiggins necessarily even have to they have a lot of bodies. They'll play Gary Payton III. They'll play Kuminga. They'll play, Looney's going to play 20, but they just have a bunch of guys who play 20 minutes and then every now and then can get more. By the way, I'm really liking, what they're doing is no surprise, but it's pretty freaking impressive what the Warriors have been able to do. I just, they have all their depth, and they're even developing Kuminga along the way. I know he had 0 fantasy points yesterday and he was a talked about guy. But I just think that I really like what they're doing, which also is not so great for fantasy, but it's really good for real life basketball. They look like a juggernaut. All right, ready to talk about my Lakers in Boston here? It's going to be tough also without a spread.
Before we do that, I want to just take a couple of seconds to talk about something that you mentioned in the live stream last night as well. So, we try to be as transparent as possible with what we're doing and whatever it is. And, Bobby mentioned a couple of times that some people say lock this, lock that. And he even mentioned that sometimes even when some of the other providers say, listen, I'm locking him in, they're not even actually doing that. They're just saying it to be dramatic or whatever it is, but whatever it is. All I will say is this, is that if I do, like, say I'm locking a guy in, he's going to be in 100% of the lineups. And if I say that I'm Xing him out, he's literally going to be X'd. And I think, you guys look to us for good information. I think that you need to know that what's coming out of our mouths is actually what's happening. And with that said, like terms like lock and X and fade and whatever sometimes have some nuance to them, but sometimes they don't. Like you could talk and say, oh, this is a lock. And I think everybody realized that means that, okay, it's a lock, meaning I have a confidence in it, but it's not going to happen 100% of the time. But when I say I'm locking a guy in, to me, that's pretty damn well clear that I'm playing him in 100% of my lineups, So I figured I'd talk into that. Now, I will say that it's a lock that I don't like this Laker-Boston game. I currently am projecting LeBron is in, like, for now.
That's my thought as well.
Which takes THT off the list, and it kind of takes almost everybody off the list for me. I have, you'd think that I'd want to play somebody from this game. It's a good game, but I don't really have anything. Like, what do you have anything at all in this game?
I don't think it takes THT off the list.
Oh, okay.
I've been really, what he's done has been beyond impressive, and it's not in like just fluky ways that he's doing this. Like, he's going to get steals, he's going to get blocks, he's active, he's going to get rebounds, even on this Laker team that plays big. Just want to say, really disappointed in Anthony Davis this season. Like, I know Westbrook, and that's the obvious one. We can all, everybody can jump and pile on Westbrook. And I know Anthony Davis had that unfortunate ejection, but Westbrook actually played really well in that game against Milwaukee the other night. And Davis was just atrocious. And I'm tired of everybody acting like this. They always say this, and they say this about so many guys. Everybody goes, oh, well, Davis and LeBron, you have 2 of the top 5 players. I'm like, why are either of these guys 2 of the top 5 players right now? One of them is usually not playing. And Anthony Davis gets outplayed by every really good big he goes against. When he goes against Giannis, he gets outplayed drastically. When he goes against Bam, he gets outplayed badly. So I'd like to see a little more from Davis, just as a Laker fan. If LeBron is out, I think it's time to take the long shot on Rondo. It's a nationally televised game back in Boston. If you want another narrative, I don't know what I can do for you. Like, Rondo at 3,300 off the bench. If there's no LeBron, obviously the minutes fluctuate, but if he plays well when he's motivated, which he does, which I imagine he would in this game, he would be my other Laker interest. And I wouldn't mind taking a shot on Russ either or Davis, but if there's that's all if there's no LeBron. If LeBron plays, I don't think those guys are going to play enough minutes to matter. Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams are also questionable tonight, so we have that to look forward to. And if they don't play Tatum and Horford as well as Schroeder in a revenge matchup, I think all those guys are interesting. I don't think I need to do anything as it stands with Jaylen Brown and Williams currently being projected in. But if either of them are out, it'll open up some interest for me. That's why this game has no total. It's very hard to break down when we have no idea who's playing yet. By the way, so Sheets, can I ask you leading into our next game? Now I know it was going back to New York and everything, and we liked him. And by the way, I think it was the right call. Like, he was 5 for 21 from the floor. He had 41 fantasy points anyway, Cole Anthony, and on 5 for 21 shooting, 1 for 9 from 3. He also was, a few assists shy of a triple double. His activity was excellent. He had a 30% usage rate almost. 29.83%. So I kind of like the Anthony play, and I'm asking you, do you think that playing in Brooklyn gives him any extra stuff? I mean, it's still in New York.
Sounds good to me.
Maybe a long shot play, but I think he's kind of interesting.
Let me just check one thing out. So he's, you could also do the go one of two ways. So he's stayed in New York the last couple of days, I presume, right?
Right.
So you can look at the home cooking narrative. That helps, but the anti-home cooking narrative is to go out with your buddies and get trashed 2 nights in a row.
Right.
So I can't quite keep a handle on that one. But I'll try it again. Why not? Yeah,
and then I actually think this whole game has got like pieces. If Orlando can keep this game close, which the only thing Brooklyn's done well this year at is beating bad teams pretty handily.
Okay.
I think they've only beaten like one team with a winning record or something. Everybody's like, look at Brooklyn just dominating, and I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens when Golden State comes to town. We saw that the other night.
Right.
The Jalen Suggs thing tonight is the question mark. Is if he plays, he's a good play. I still prefer Wagner actually at 4,300, but I like Wendell Carter, and I mentioned that I like Cole Anthony as a long shot play. I also think that Terrence Ross is he does this every year. He sort of takes the first like couple of weeks, he doesn't really shoot at the ball that much, and then he starts getting into it. He's 3,400. He's been taking 15 shots. He took 15 shots in the last game, 19 the game before. 29 fantasy points last time out. So Terrence Ross, I have an interest in a lot of these values, but it's going to depend on whether or not Suggs plays. And I'm assuming right now that Suggs is going to play. Even still, all these guys show up as being fairly decent value plays, especially Ross. On the other side, on Brooklyn, let me grab my notes. I don't know why they don't move Patty Mills' price up. The problem is he's going to be really popular. And I always say it's good to avoid the popular shooters that are so shooting reliant. But he is 3,800. And if you want value, which I think you're going to want some on this slate, I think he's really interesting. I also think no one is going to play KD or Harden. And I am open to playing one of those two guys.
Yeah, to piggyback off what you said, I do have Suggs and Ross both rated as good values. Ross, again, is it's kind of scary to play Ross because, he's the guy that could score more real life points than fantasy points.
Yeah.
Not actually, but it
feels that way.
Feels that way sometimes. I used to say that about Darryl Strawberry when he played for the Mets. He could be the only one to hit more home runs than RBIs for the season.
Barry Bonds had that too for a while.
But yeah, so I do like those as value plays. I think Cole Anthony's a good long shot tournament play, and I would run backs with one of those guys, either Harden or Durant, if I was going to do that.
Yeah, I think you could. I think this might be a stack I consider. Like, I mean, I could make it a good case for at least for playing 3 together of the Orlando side, especially if Suggs is out. Maybe even 4. And then you run it back with just, and you could do it cheaply too. but I like Carter. I said I like Carter a lot. I do. I like Bamba also. We know what Biggs can do to this Brooklyn team. It's sort of like a battle of like completely opposite types of teams. And you play Bruce Brown again with Harden or Durant, and all of a sudden you've got a cheapish game stack with only paying up really crazy up for Durant or Harden. And I think that's kind of an interesting route to go. I mean, probably worth noting how good and how active, Bruce Brown has been. He's put up 30 plus fantasy points 2 games in a row. He's still 4,200. You've got Patty Mills also you could include in that stack. This could be like a game that you really want to target. You just need to hope that Orlando can keep it close. And that's really what the issue is. So I kind of have this game circled as one that I want to do some business in.
Okay. Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, do we really have to do anything here?
Smaller slate than usual for a Friday. I don't think that there's anything that you have to do. I think early on, it's going to make sense to play guys like Giddey, and he's going to show up well because of his usage and his expected production and all that stuff. But it's a tough matchup. I don't know if we can bank on the Lou Dort. Just an incredible performance the other night. I mean, the guy had 50 fantasy points, for Christ's sake. Like, he had 34 real life points. By the way, Lou Dort quietly has become like a scorer. Listen to his last games, 27. These are real points, not fantasy, real points. 27, 22, 20, 20, and 34. Lou Dort, where are you coming from? He's taken up the usage from Giddey and Shea, and no one seems to have caught on to it. So I will suggest that maybe we play Lou Dort. I usually only like him in games I expect to stay close. I don't expect this game to stay particularly close, but I still like him. And we're on the Milwaukee side, if no one is going to play Giannis, even in look, this is not a matchup you need Giannis. I can make probably just as good an argument for Middleton or Holiday, but he's just a walk. He's a machine. And these days, getting the raw points is really mattering on these bigger slates, especially. We keep treating it like we need to find the absolute best play. And that's partly been my fault because I've done a lot of that. But maybe we can just take the raw points.
Just take the 60 and go home.
Yeah, I mean, and even if he puts up 50 something, I think you're still very live without another clear guy, especially with Jokic questionable, with LeBron just coming back in that mucked up that whole situation. No one's going to play Curry either. It's sort of the same thing, but like one of those, if Curry played, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting route. So that's all I've got from this game is mainly Dort and Giannis, but I wouldn't mind, if you want to say Holiday or Middleton, and if you wanted to get involved with the other guys. I just feel like the prices would make it hard for me to try and have too much interest in the OKC side. The one guy who does show up for a value standpoint is Jeremiah Robinson Earl.
Okay.
He's 3,400. He's put up 26 and 28 in the last 2 games. They seem to be giving him that same 25-minute range. Doesn't mean he's necessarily going to get there in this game, but he's going to be on the court and he's going to give you a chance at a double-double, which is going to be 30 fantasy points basically automatically. I always say that on DraftKings. So I actually have some interest in Robinson's Earl as a value play.
Okay.
All right. Clippers and Pelicans. Boy, I am surprised this game. This whole year, all the totals. I mean, I've got to look at the numbers. I've got to find the numbers today, but I'm telling you, every game seems to hit the freaking under. But the Pelicans and Clippers feels like it should be targeted should be a little bit higher projected than it is. I know the Clippers, but they're on a back-to-back, right? They played last night. Yeah, because they had the coffee experiment, which, as I was saying, didn't do anything fantasy-wise, even though he was out there for quite a number of minutes.
He was decaffeinated.
He was decaf.
I don't know.
He was decaf coffee. But I guess just going real quick on this, I like Reggie Jackson here. I like Paul George as a spend up. He's a reasonable one. It's that set at 10-3. It's a good matchup, obviously. I like that they're on the road. It should keep the game closer. I have mild interest in Zubac, but I just want to remind everybody Steven Adams is no fun to play for traditional centers. He doesn't really give up big games very often. And then you have, we can gamble on Kennard, we can gamble on Mann, we can gamble on Hartenstein. My guess is we hear maybe Ibaka plays tonight, so that could muck things up. No interest in Bledsoe for me, but I think Jackson and George. And then I want to see, even though some of these guys aren't listed as questionable, there are some of these guys I'm not so sure they're going to play just based on the back-to-back factor alone. And certainly or at least make it. Terrence Mann just came back from the injured list and was limited already, so maybe he sits and that opens up Kennard for more minutes. We do have no Batum, so that should be something for us. But we need to find out about Ibaka and that stuff. And then on the other side, it's the same guy I just recommend every time in good pace matchups. And it's Josh Hart, man. This guy just keeps crushing, and now everybody's playing him. Before, no one was playing him. I like Josh Hart, and I like Brandon Ingram, and that's pretty much my interest on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I think you misspoke. Yes, Steven Adams is tough to play against, but he's not. I don't.
Oh, he's not there anymore. I'm sorry. That Joe Val, same thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're right.
Speaking of which, I do like Joe Val here at 9,300.
Okay.
And I like Paul George on the other side. I didn't really get too much of the value pieces in here, but neither of them were that exciting. I mean, they're both pretty expensive, but I wouldn't mind maybe doing something like that. But that's pretty much it from this game for me.
Yeah, and because the Clippers were getting beaten so badly, their guys didn't play their normal 36 minutes last night, so they should be okay. I actually think that there is stuff in it. I think this game is a game that I'm, definitely considering focusing on personally. Speaking of, okay, well, the other game with no total because we don't know about Jokic. This is going to be tough. Do you want to try and start off with the Chicago-Denver?
Yeah, I'm going to operate on the assumption that Jokic is playing because it's easier for me that way.
Okay, let's do it.
If with him playing, I like him, and I also like the other side. I like Levine. Those are the two guys that I identified for this game, and I think they both look really, really good. I don't. If he's out, then it's Katie bar the door. You got to then back to Aaron Gordon and Jeff Green and all that other stuff. Who else is Taco on that team? Is Taco on Denver? No. Yeah. No, he's not. Bull
Bull is on them.
Yeah. I hope he plays. I don't need to stress that.
It's going to be all Denver if he doesn't play. And if we don't know, again, we might have to just stack the late games because you're going to have to get pieces of it if he's out.
Yes. And that would be the guys. I think the guys I mentioned, right? Any others with PJ Dozier? Is he in play? I mean, I don't know who else.
It would depend on the starting lineup. I would say Bones Highland would get a boost. JaMychal Green, Jeff Green, even Monty Morris. From the usage standpoint, Will Barton was just coming back from an injury, and he's on a back-to-back. Also played great last night, but I would be looking at all these guys, including even Aaron Gordon, if Jokic were to be out. Right. But the Chicago side, I'm not quite as interested in. I do like Lonzo, Levine, or DeRozan. Probably Lonzo is my favorite. I'm gonna see what Caruso's price is on FanDuel. They bumped him up over there, and he's actually gonna get played tonight at 50 whatever 100. He was freaking awesome the other night. He put up 47 against Portland, and he only did it with 9 shots. He shooting 3 for 9. He had almost a triple double. He was 1 assist away. But he really has become. I mean, this Bulls team is incredible. They've got the double, triple double boys in the backcourt with Lonzo and Caruso, and then you've got Bradley. You've got DeRozan and Levine, who just are incredibly efficient. So I don't know. It feels like they're getting priced up a little bit. I do think Lonzo on FanDuel is. Oh no, yeah, actually he's gonna be the same over there. They raised his price. I guess Lonzo's my favorite play in this game, followed by Levine. My favorite play on that side. Lonzo or Levine is probably my thing, and I don't mind if you play them both together in a stack. If we do get all the Jokic out, I probably will be looking to stack this game.
Toronto, Sacramento. I'll go right back to. I presume I'll go right back to Ken Burch at 3K. He looks like a good value again. And then I also like to spend. I wouldn't mind spending up for Van Vliet in this matchup as well. So me, Van Vliet, and Burch, and Sacramento is unfortunately just kind of balanced for me. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I remember we played what's his name the other day, Halliburton. I'll listen to see what you have to say about that. But for me, it's just Van Vliet and Burch.
Yeah, we have no OG, okay, but we might get a Chua back, which could hurt a little bit of Birch, but I think
Okay.
3K we're still interested. Like I'm with you. One guy who's been really good and is probably gonna by the time value opens up and it's gonna be completely looked aside later, cast aside later is Gary Trent. And it's a good
Okay.
matchup, but I don't know if I can do it. Scotty Barnes is interesting if Precious is out, especially. And if Precious is out, you're gonna have the Boucher conversation again. It's not exciting, but I'll tell you what, he was 1 for 6 last night. He still put up 17 fantasy points. He's 3,300. If you're looking for extra value, which my guess is you won't need on this slate, but if you do, he would be viable again. And also keep in mind, Siakam is coming off of a pretty serious thing, and he sat the last back-to-back, which was last week. I think there's a good chance he sits here, which is going to open up all of Toronto, even though he's not listed as questionable even. But just keep in mind, and also they're going. This is a tough thing for them. I mean, they have to go from Utah into Sacramento. It's a weird spot. So maybe he does. Maybe they do rest him. I think they're open to it. The only problem is they've lost 6 in a row, I think, and they probably want to get a win. So we have to, again, we're not going to know probably about Precious before lock, and we won't. So Siakam, if we see a midday downgrade, I would consider him very doubtful and unlikely to play. I do think Halliburton, like he had a terrible game the other night. I don't expect that to be the normal case for him. I like Halliburton the best of anybody on the Sacramento side. And I don't think I want to do anything else. Harrison Barnes, it would probably be my next favorite, followed by Fox. Davion Mitchell's really cheap, but the minutes are definitely suspect. He has been fine for the minutes, production wise, but it's just they have too many guards when Halliburton's in. So I'm siding with Halliburton as being the only real serious play that I want to play from Sacramento.
I really think that what you're supposed to do this slate for a lot of reasons is just really just at least to start off with is just to put a lot of guys in the Dallas Phoenix game, presuming that Luka doesn't play like for now. And what I would do is I put in KP, Brunson, to Tim Hardaway Jr., run it back with Ayton, who's ridiculous. I think it's still ridiculously cheap. Ayton and I guess Booker, and you have a bunch of guys in that game. And again, the benefit of having guys in that game is that if something happens in the Denver game, you have a little time to screw around with that. The only thing is that you have that the Detroit Golden State game, right? So if Curry is out, you're gonna have to act now, at least on the Golden State things. But like if Curry is in, for example, I mean, I think this is the easy way to play, right? I think that all the guys in Dallas I said make sense. I think the Phoenix guys make sense, and I think that's what you're really supposed to do on this thing.
Yeah. So a couple things I noticed that we just had this matchup the other night. So if there is no Luka, obviously KP his usage was incredible. Very I don't know if I've ever seen Luka at over 30% usage. He's not that kind of a guy usually. But I did notice that in a very tight game, he was playing less minutes than every starter. He's showing up as not being crazy high owned today. I don't know what the hell's going on with that because my guess is he's going to be 1,000,000% owned. I think I think that Tim Hardaway is going to be 1,000,000% owned too, and I have no problem. I agree with all of that. You can use Bullock even as a filler if nothing else. He's going to play minutes. He'll be out there potentially in crunch time. Dorian Finney-Smith will be out there for 30 plus minutes. These aren't exciting plays, but if you do stack up these games, we can mix and match what happens based on the news with Jokic, based on the news if there is some with Siakam and Precious Achiuwa, which would open up Boucher. You know what I mean? And then you can always do something, which I did the other night and fell back on, and that was one of the best decisions I made that night. And that's you can just play Dwight Powell. It's not fun. But, I got a good Dwight Powell game. He put up 26 fantasy points in this matchup the other night. So you can always do other things than stick with all these,
right,
maybe crummy plays. If things don't break your way, it's not the worst in the world. I agree with you about Ayton. I think Mikal Bridges is it's getting to the point where it's cheap enough to where I'm okay with just he never really gets more than max.
Is he still 5K?
He's 46.
Oh, they finally broke the 5 ball on him. Huh? Okay.
Yeah, they dropped him down. He's 551 on FanDuel. I think he's fine on both sites. We have, there's no Kaminsky out there too, which he's been a guy who's done a lot of scoring for them on the second unit. So even guys like Jay Crowder are guys who I will use as lineup fillers early in the day at 4,300. And Cam Johnson is a guy you could always take a shot if you got stuck, because I do suggest, my bet is we hear some late news, especially with Toronto being on the back-to-back, and Dallas with the question marks about Luka. But if Luka does end up playing, you can use these other fill-in pieces. But I probably want like 4 or 5 guys from this last game where I'm not going to stack Orlando, Brooklyn, or the Clippers in New Orleans. Those are the other stackable games to me. And these last 2 games are plenty good enough for me to risk and gamble on, and it's worked out so far. Every time I've actually stuck to that, I've done really well this season. So I'm probably going to do that again. All right. You want me to really quickly go through my guys?
Sure.
So just that whole Sacramento, that whole situation with Dallas, Phoenix, KP, Ayton, obviously, what did they make? I didn't even notice that with price. I didn't double check. Brunson at 6,700. I still have interest. And if there's no Luka, but you can again, if Luka plays, you can merge these guys and then play these other maybe suspect-ish value, but it's not that bad a value. Tim Hardaway Jr. These are my favorite ones. They're mostly in the last games. Birch, one of Lonzo or Levine, Josh Hart, Bridges, Patty Mills, Sterling, Bruce Brown. Cunningham is the one guy from the early games that I really am going to make sure that I have in my lineups. Anything else to add before we get? I love that you like Valanciunas. That's I can promise very few things, but I can promise you that guy will be less than 3 or 4% owned.
Oh, sounds good to me.
Unless like somebody's out, but yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, good luck to everybody tonight. We hope you crush it, and I will be with you at 6. Sheets will not be, but we will go through and we'll do a rapid fire questions. We'll go through all my ownership and all that stuff, and hopefully we don't have. Hopefully we get our late news earlier, and we don't have to scramble as much as we did yesterday. So.
Hey, hang on a second after you stop recording.
Okay. Good luck, everybody.